All right. All right. We've now been joined by our race-winning owner, Dale Earnhardt Jr., who was willing to come spend a couple of minutes here in with us. So thank you, Dale. Also, you're in the booth today with NBC as well. So obviously a big day from in the booth. But tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the race and really what it means to have two cars going for the championship next week in Phoenix.
Well, we're thankful. That was a wild finish, and just Justin didn't have a good enough car to outrun them guys, but it all, got messy at the end, and we come out on the good end of it. And when those things happen, there'll be a lot of people that are unhappy, and one guy that is, or maybe two, but and we've been on both ends of it. Justin said that in the post-race comments that he's certainly experienced the frustrating sides of these things, and it's a Martinsville in the playoffs, and it's an elimination race, short track racing. I said it at the start of the race that, it's lightning in a bottle, putting this race as an elimination event. And I don't know that you can do anything to avoid having those type of finishes when there's so much at stake and everybody's within reach of each other physically on the racetrack. So it worked as designed, in terms of creating a lot of drama and conversation around what happened on the racetrack.
All right, we'll now go to questions for Dale. There are a few. All right, we will start up front with Lee.
Lee Spencer, catchfriends.com. How do you keep it together when you see where Justin is before that restart, and you're hearing some of the same audio we are, and Eddie's cracking the whip, Jim Pullman's saying,
Yeah.
I mean, they're just, what's your range of emotions, because you're trying to keep your shit together.
Yeah, one of the crew chiefs that we interviewed at the end of the race, or before the end of the race, said it best. He's like, I could think of 7 different scenarios on what might happen on this next restart, and I'll probably still be wrong. And so, when you're sitting there with a car like Justin's, a couple points out, it doesn't look promising. You can't really assume anything, and you can't hope for the best. You can't assume the worst. You just kind of got to wait and watch what happens. And so it's kind of like sitting at the roulette wheel in Vegas. You put your chips out there on the numbers that you hope are going to hit, and you watch that ball, and it's either going to land on your number or it ain't. That's kind of the way it is on those final few laps there. And it's pretty messy, but Justin's got a clock, and we got a shot to go race for a championship. So the emotion that you have is just being thankful that you came out on the good end of it, and you get a chance to try to finish. I would say if it was any other driver, you would have different emotions, but it's Justin, and me and him have had some really, tough moments on pit road after Phoenix the last couple of years. And he's not made it any secret that he's wants to win a championship, and we brought Jim in to try to help him achieve that, and he has who knows how many opportunities left to try to do that. I think if he wanted, he'd probably race another 5 years and be great. But we all know that, that 41 to 43 age is where, a lot of guys seem to sort of lose that, whatever it is, that eliteness that makes them great. But, so we're trying to make it happen. Hopefully this is our year.
All right, we're going to go to Bob.
Bob Hockers, Fox Sports. If you were in charge of RCR, how do you handle that? Or did you view anything of that as over the line, or when you're racing to get in, is there really almost no line in those situations?
Yeah, I don't know what you do. I was sitting there thinking about that, talking about that in those final handful of laps. You got 2 sets of teammates sitting there with Gibbs and RCR, and you've got, arguably 2 or 3 of those guys out of that group that have to win. And what do you expect them to do, right? I can understand anybody. I can understand Richard or Austin or Creed's frustration, but they are doing what they have to do to win, and it's tough. It's hard to. It's the playoffs and the elimination races and everything puts us in those situations that we've never been in before with teammates. And you got a car capable of winning the race, but your teammate needs this and another one needs that, and you can't really go out and just have an objective of your own, an agenda of your own. And it's not unfortunate is not the right word, but it just puts us in unique situations now that we never really watched people experience or been a part of before. And I wouldn't have wanted to be Richard at the end of that deal, and I certainly wouldn't have wanted him. I guess when it was getting ready to have that restart, I didn't envy his position, and I certainly don't envy it now. But I listened to Creed's post-race interview, and I can't argue with anything he said. He moved him. We all know that short tracks, using the bumper and to move people out of the way is pretty much fair game. He allowed Austin a chance to race. He didn't send him into the wall. He didn't knock him back to sixth. He just got him up off the bottom, and both of those guys did a little bit of that all night, I didn't see anything just obviously blatant or man, that's totally uncalled for. I didn't see really any of that. But you're not going to have that go on and not be frustrated either way. So, you got a guy leaving. There's some dynamics there that their feelings are hurt or what have you. And Creed, with Creed moving on or Richard Childress and them moving on from Creed, however you want to look at it. So you got a driver in Austin Hill that they really believe in and want him to be part of their long-term future, And Austin Hill, I talked to him on my podcast this week. He talked about how he was so frustrated so many times he was going to go to Martinsville and wasn't going to allow that to happen again. And and that goes down. So tough situation for them to be in. And when you rate, I'll say this, and this was certainly something I experienced earlier in the year. When you put fast race cars on the racetrack, they're going to run up front and they're going to run into each other. And we got young guys out there trying to make a name for themselves. They're not veterans. They're not old teammates that have been buddies for decades. They're young guys that don't really know each other that well, and they don't have a loyalty to each other. And that's what the Xfinity Series and Truck Series is about. You got these guys that come in and out of these cars in brief periods, and so they're gonna bounce into each other and piss each other off, and you're gonna have conversations on Mondays and Tuesdays that aren't fun to try to keep it going in the right direction, and that's just part of it.
All right, our next question will go to Matt Weaver.
Matt Weaver here in the back, sportsnot.com. Dale, aside from your selfish personal investment in the team and the excitement for Justin and the organization, how important is it for the sport and NASCAR to have a race like this? Because on one hand, some people will say, well, that's disrespectful racing and it's immature or whatever, and then some people say it's dramatic, it's awesome. Where do you kind of land on those two dueling philosophies?
Well, if you own the winning car, it's a lot easier to take, what you saw. If I was wadded up and unable to cross the finish line, I would be very disheartened by what I saw. So it just depends on who you are and what your experience was. I don't think anybody wants to see that style of finish every week, right? But you have to understand, this is when they make the playoffs, when they choose the races that are going to be in the rounds. It's made to create these moments, and so it's they picked Martinsville to be an elimination race to go to the next race is the championship. Martinsville ain't in round 1, round 2. It's here for a reason. It's at this race right now for a reason. Daytona is a final for the regular season. That was an intentional decision to put that race there, right? To create moments and create drama and make these drivers do uncomfortable things, and that's kind of it's frustrating sometimes because your driver ends up on the bad end of a deal, or we have an ugly crash across the finish line like tonight. Nobody wants to see all these cars crashing like that. But I don't know, we could have ran that 10 times and had different endings, and maybe not quite as crash filled there. But I don't think it always ends this way. But I don't know. I as a broadcaster and as a fan, I want to see the drivers in very uncomfortable situations, and I want to see their morals tested.
And then to that point, how important is it that we get the cup product here to resemble more what we saw today?
Well, we don't. I think that NASCAR's working hard. I said it today on the practice qualifying show. Man, I applaud them to be able to get this tire here and choose to do this at a very critical moment, right? A lot of times when it's this far into the season and there's so much on the line, a different tire or any kind of a change rule-wise is really shelved till next year, right? But they saw the urgency that everybody's been asking for and begging for on the short track program. It's got to get better. It cannot be what we've had over the last couple of years. They know that. They went to Richmond. They tried hard with a lot of really, really good ideas that they thought would bear fruit that didn't. But what they did hear from the drivers, they put into play, and all we've been told, all that I hear is, even if we do find the answer, to be able to get those parts and pieces to everybody takes this long process, right? So even if we do know what we need to do, it may not get implemented for another 6 months or 12 months. And so thank you for Goodyear and NASCAR for being able to try a tire that might be better. We don't really know till tomorrow. But watching practice and qualifying, how much it was rubbering the track in, I think that's a good thing. I want to believe that's a better thing than what we've had. The 3,000-mile tire is certainly not the answer. And so, you want that thing to wear out. You want it to rubber up the track, and you want the track to have all kinds of marbles and it gets slimy. And Blaney said it on his interview. He's like, I hope the track widens out because that gives him opportunity starting where he is to pass. With the tire we've had, it's been right on the bottom, can't pass anybody. But if this track kind of widens out, you might be able to arc that entry to one and drive across the racetrack and drive up underneath somebody off the corner, something we haven't seen here in a while since the next gen came around. So hopefully the tire is a part of the process of improving the short track racing. And, Goodyear has always been really hesitant to get aggressive or do anything sort of risky with their product since we had the thing at Indy. I get it. They don't want to have problems on the racetrack because it's hard to sell tires to customers on the street. But thank you for the efforts they've had to try to improve things. Even if it doesn't work, I thank them for trying.
All right, we're going to come up front to Deb Williams. Get a microphone right here, please.
Thank you. Deb Williams, Auto Week. Dale, in 1993, when Ned Jarrett was in the broadcast booth, and they had him call the finish between your dad and Dale Jarrett, and he apologized to your dad a week later.
Yeah.
And his dad, what he said. Have they ever? Has NBC ever wanted to throw it to you when your drivers are in contention for the win, and how would you handle that if they did?
They don't really direct us to. They don't really call and say, you go. We want you to talk about this. And I probably won't do next week's race, obviously, for good reason, right? I didn't do it last year. And I almost asked out of this race today, but I went to Tony Jr.'s wedding last night, so I asked out of the practice for Xfinity, and I felt bad asking out for two things. So I went ahead and worked this race, and you just hope that nothing happens that puts you in an uncomfortable situation, and you hope that you don't do something or say something that the viewer would find, odd or they want a biased or they want an unbiased opinion when they're with who's calling the event. And I imagine that maybe it's not optimal that I'm in there in the Xfinity races, considering I own race cars on the racetrack, but I work really hard to try my best to call it straight, and I get excited about what I'm seeing. Austin Hill taking the lead. It's hard not to like, it's hard not to like what you're seeing when you're seeing a good race, no matter who it is, even though you've got a car out there trying to work his way into the points as well. But after talking to Austin on the podcast and knowing how important this was to him and how he had these sort of failures in this moment in the past, he goes into the lead. I'm like, about to see this guy do what he really wants to do, and that's exciting for me as a fan. So I found it very easy to turn into a fan when I walk into that booth, and I can easily strip away the urgency and the want to that I have for my own teams. It's just easy for me to not have that in those moments. Now, when I get out of the booth, I'm going to go down to the pit road. I'm going to shake Justin's hand. I'm going to give him a hug. I'm going to tell him next week we're not going to be standing on pit road crying after the race at Phoenix. We're going to go there and try to win a championship. And I'm going to, tell Sam Mayer that he's the favorite, not the underdog. But when I'm working, it's easy for me to not have that emotion, But luckily, we got a lot of freedom up there. I'm thankful for that. NBC doesn't really puppeteer us in that sense.
Dale, we appreciate you spending
Thank y'all,
some time with us. We wish you guys the best luck next week, and good luck in the booth tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hi, I'm back. It wasn't an hour. It was long, but it wasn't an hour. It feel like an hour? Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Oh.
I got my coffee. My old man coffee over here.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here with our post NASCAR Xfinity Series race here with our winner, Justin Allgaier, driver of the number 7 Chevrolet for JRM. Justin, I don't really know where to start, but we'll start with those final few laps there. You've been in this situation several times. You've been on what would be considered maybe the good side of knowing you were going to advance to Phoenix, on the side of leaving here, not advancing to Phoenix. Obviously, those last couple laps were a little bit wild and crazy, but take us through, from your vantage point, of kind of staying in the game and then finally being able to cross that finish line in the lead.
Listen, I hated this format when the red flag came out because I was pretty sure we were out. There was no way. I didn't see a clear path to making it in. And, when it comes down to it, this team, everybody at Junior Motorsports, Jim Pullman, Eddie DeHaan, everybody that is a part of this Hellman's Camaro team, I can't even begin to describe tonight. The effort on the radio, those guys trying to keep me in the game, me being frustrated. I think as good of a season as we've had and to be in the position that we've been in. I mean, Jim called a Hail Mary on a pit strategy, and he said, look, bro, I know this isn't what you want to do, but he said, this is what we had to do. And when we started falling back, I'm like, man, I don't know what to expect. But that last restart, I mean, heck, I thought I crashed myself on the front straightaway coming to the white. I didn't even realize John Herman was outside of me the way that he was. And I about put myself in the wall. That's a good sound, by the way, right there, that clock dinging. Not sure that I'll agree with that at 3 o'clock in the morning. But, just what an unbelievable night. And then, listen, Sheldon, Austin, John Hunter, Sammy Smith. I mean, Sammy Smith did an amazing job today and did all the right things. It just the way the race played out at the end there, it was wild. I locked my elbows off at turn 4, and I thought, well, we're either going to win this thing or I'm probably going to end up upside down. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was hoping that maybe I knew Sheldon was going to stay in the gas. At the point of how he entered turn 3, I knew he was going to be in the gas. So my only shot at that point was to maybe get turned across in front of him. But what an incredible evening. And my little girl, I got my phone out right now. My little girl is playing for a championship in softball. She got a home run tonight, and they're leading 19-1. I feel like that's pretty good. They got to finish. They got 2 outs in the bottom of the inning. But what a day for the Allgaier clan. It's truly been special. And this is a team. This is a team win because trust me, Justin Allgaier was not the guy that won the race tonight. The guys behind me were the ones that won it. So really proud of the team effort that we put in.
All right, we're going to go to questions. If you have a question, raise your hand. We'll start here in the back in the Under Armour hat.
Nathan Song with a podium finish. Justin, when you crossed the line there, did you think you had it right away, or did it kind of take a minute for you to realize that you had won the race?
I thought I had it, and then obviously there's carnage on the front straightaway, and I'm glad I came around. I don't know. At that point, I didn't know what to expect, so I kind of weaved my way through there. But, the first question was, is everybody all right? Right? That was a heck of a hit for some folks on the front straightaway. And then they told me to stop, and they're like, hey, we don't know who won. So then, that's twice now this year I've second-guessed whether we came across the line as the winner or not. And so they said, don't move. Not an ideal situation, I'm going to be honest with you. But when they finally gave me the all clear and Dave Burns gave me the thumbs up and said we had actually won, what an incredible just emotion that went through. It truly was special. And you never know in the way that these races play out. And I mean, shoot, we still got to go through tech, right? Anything can and will happen. We're good. Hey, we won a race. All right. Listen, this is 23, I think 22 came with 23. I've never left a win and I sit back and it's surreal. It's surreal to be in the situation that we're in. It's surreal to have the team behind me that I do. It's truly incredible, and I'm blessed to even be here doing this, and proving that we still got a little bit of fight in this, and we got a lot of momentum on our side. Excuse me. We had a great qualifying effort yesterday. We had a great practice, and we executed tonight. And even when all the chips were on the table, and you thought that it wasn't your day, that last card was the card we needed, and it's really special.
And to your point a minute ago, you're below the cut line for most of this race. So did you feel like you had a car capable enough of not just transferring but winning the race?
Yes, especially early on. As the sun started to set, our balance kind of went away from us a little bit, and I was nervous. You never know what to expect. And listen, when you come down to the end of these races, and it's a green white checker especially, all bets are off. All the cards are out there. You don't know what to expect. But I'm proud of this team. I mean, Eddie DeHaan, Jim Pullman, they both were on me lap after lap. Eddie kept saying, "This is war. You got to go after it. You got to be more aggressive," because he knows that I'm not. Like, that's just not my trait, right? I'm not going to drive through the bumper of somebody to try to win a race. Tonight, honestly, was really odd. I mean, the seas just parted and it worked out. But when I walked out of here tonight, whether we made it or we didn't, I knew that I gave 100%. And I was comfortable with who I was as a person and how I raced when I walked out of here, and that's all I can ask for.
All right, we're going to go to Davey Siegel in the back.
Davey Siegel with SiriusXM. Justin, was that probably the craziest, most chaotic race that you think you've ever been a part of?
Yeah, there's not a lot of other ones that come to mind, I'll be honest with you. There's been a lot of crazy finishes, especially a lot of crazy finishes here. And when I look at Martinsville, I'm a little disappointed that it comes down to a crash, right? Because this racetrack is such a cool place, and the racing tonight was, gloves were off. Everybody was going for broke. The rubber being down, the temperature. I cannot overstate enough how much fun tonight was, even when it wasn't going the way you wanted it to go, with the rubber being laid down and the lack of grip. I mean, we were all sliding around all night long. The brake, I think I burned the brakes off of it about halfway through. I had to start moving my brake levers and trying to just figure out how to finish the race. And what a way to finish a race. So, you're definitely chaotic. listen, they work in your favor sometimes, and sometimes they don't. I was so frustrated at the restarts tonight because if I took the top jammed up. If I took the bottom jammed up. It just never seemed like I could make the right choice. And again, Eddie and Jim both were on me. Like, we got to keep fighting. We got to keep going. And it worked out in our favor. And we got a shot at a championship at a racetrack that we're phenomenal at. I'm excited about next week. It got a lot busier. Let me be honest with you. This week, I'm sorry, Campbell. I'm sorry. But this week got a lot busier. But, it's worth it, and it's going to be a blast.
To your point, Jim and Eddie on the radio were egging you on a little bit to not be afraid to use the bumper, be aggressive if you had to, maybe a little bit more aggressive than you're used to and you're accustomed to being. How comfortable were you in a situation like that, kind of quote-unquote doing what you had to do to make it?
I wasn't, but they know that. And that's their way of firing me up and getting me going. Listen, I had a great relationship with Jason Burdett for a lot of years, and he was the exact same as Jim has been this year in firing me up and getting me going. Eddie DeHaan has been a main staple in my career for the last number of years. He knows when I'm down. He knows when I'm up. He knows when he's got to rein me in, and he knows when he's got to push me. And tonight he knew when to push. Listen, these guys don't get enough credit. I get to be the guy that holds the steering wheel, but these guys don't get enough credit for what it takes to come here and to be successful and to win these races. And it feels great, man. There is not a cooler feeling than standing on that stage in Victory Lane and having everybody around you that is part of your success. It means a lot.
All right, we're going to come up front to Bob.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. I have two. The first is, can you describe this win in one word? And if so, what is it?
One word? Relieving. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I've wanted to win at this place a long time. There's so much pressure and stress on this race, right? Spring race is great because there's no pressure, there's no stress. Like, you just go for a win. Fall race, there's a lot, and I envied Sam Mayer all week for coming in here and being locked in. Like, I envied that. But relieving, knowing that we got 2 Junior Motorsports Camaros going for a shot at a championship next week. I can't even begin to describe what this win means.
As you can imagine, Austin Hill wasn't too happy with Sheldon. I'm curious, from what you saw, did you see anything that was incredibly, egregious when you're trying to make it to the Final Four, Championship 4?
Listen, I have a lot of respect for both of those guys. Obviously, both Chevrolet teammates. They both put they both were driving for everything they had. I mean, I saw Austin push John Hunter up at one point. Sheldon got me at one point. But I think that shows you what an opportunity for a championship means next week, right? Those guys are 2 of the most respectful race car drivers on the racetrack, and to go to blows like that, even as teammates, it just shows you how important these moments are. Sheldon's obviously not coming back to RCR next year, but he's going to be equally as tough next year wherever he ends up. Austin's going to be great next week at Phoenix. He's liable to win the race, right? So, I hoped it would happen. Secretly, you're like, man, if these two run into each other, this is going to be great. But they're probably not going to. And then they did. And then, I had this moment of, what do I do, right? Because if they crash and I run right into them, I'm going to look like an idiot, right? But then they kind of moved up the racetrack, and I'm like, I'm going to force it in there. And then Sheldon just hung a left, and he was like, I'm going to try to keep it, And I'm like, man, I don't know if this is going to work out, but I'm just going to hold my hand straight and keep the throttle down. And obviously, it could have gone either way. I mean, you look at the photo finish at Victory Lane. I mean, it could have gone either way. But I don't think either one of them two will walk out of here not knowing that they didn't give it their all. No different than I am. And the highest of highs and lowest of lows is what the sport's really, really all about.
All right, we're going to go to Matt Weaver, and then I believe I had a question here in the middle. Go ahead, Matt.
Matt Weaver, Sportsnot. You said you can't remember a crazier win or a celebration you've been a part of. ARCA Toledo 08, is it kind of similar?
It's funny. So Jim Pullman's wife, Jackie, we stopped on the way coming in here, and she said she thought she had this man, this could work out like Toledo did for the ARCA championship. She's like, but it'll never happen. She's like, sure enough, same kind of thing happened. What's really funny now is, I have a great relationship with Scott Speed and Ricky Stenhouse both. I train with Scott Speed and Josh Wise every day when we're at home. They've done a great job of preparing me for these moments, and it's so ironic that has kind of bled over into so many points in my career. That championship, those guys have no idea the defining moment it was for me as a person and what it was for my mom and dad as a owners of a race team. I mean, my mom and dad are here tonight, sitting back towards the back there, and I can tell you that there's nothing cooler than having them be a part of this. My wife was here. She literally, my daughter won the softball tournament, by the way. They were the champions, but she left there because she knew how monumental tonight was, and she drove over here to be with me, and I just. That moment was a defining moment in my career. Tonight, whether people realize it or not, this is a defining race for me. Like, every one of these victories has meant something different, and I'll cherish every one of them.
And then you've kind of been on both sides of the current playoff format, disappointment, celebration, and you might be too close to it now to really be able to separate it, but is there a part of you that recognizes when you're standing in turn one, celebrating with the crowd and the fans, how important or special it is for the fans and generating interest and excitement for years to come?
So I'm going to try to pull up this picture right here, if I can get it. I set this photo as my lock screen last year after Phoenix. I probably should have favorited it so that it would have been a little easier to find it, but I set this photo of Dale Jr. and I standing in Phoenix. He gave me a big hug, and I'm pretty sure I was bawling my eyes out, right? Not because of anything other than, I don't know if y'all can see this or not. This picture is Dale Jr. Hugging me around the neck, right? And I set that picture as my lock screen because I knew when we left Phoenix that I didn't have anything left. I mean, I did everything I knew how to do, and it didn't equate into a championship. And I've been here, and I've had these moments of like, you don't have that opportunity to go on to Phoenix. I've been at Phoenix, and I've had defeat. I've had a lot more defeat than joy in this playoff format for sure. But there is not a moment as a racer that it doesn't make you stronger. It doesn't give you a reason to keep coming back to the racetrack. I mean, listen, if we won every week, if everything in life was easy, it'd be really hard to get excited about doing anything. And I think that that's what makes this format so difficult, but also so exhilarating and fruitful whenever you do win, is because, like tonight, I'm walking out of here 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I might still be 5'5", but I'm walking out of here a little taller than I was, right? But Sammy, Austin, Sheldon, they're walking out of here defeated, right? But I can promise you that when the off season starts, that's their motivation. Now I have to find what motivates me to do the next one, and I think that that's really what it comes down to. How you motivate yourself, and you can let it eat you inside, or you can let it be the fuel that you need to go to the next one. And for me, this momentum is fuel, but the defeat would have equally been as much fuel to be better next year.
All right, we had a quick. There you go.
Trey Lyle, frontstretch.com. First question for you, Justin. Is the Yoo-Hoo thing with you and Josh Williams, like, were you expecting that? Are you a big Yoo-Hoo fan? Is that just the drink he had?
I don't know if you guys know Josh Williams the way I know Josh Williams, right? Truly one of the most awesome people in this garage area. And when I've had really good days, like tonight, he's out there with a Yoo-Hoo, right? And I don't know where the Yoo-Hoo thing came from. He brought me one at Bristol. He's I think Daytona he cracked a Yoo-Hoo with me, right? Like, those are special moments. But on the flip side of it, the guy has, in my darkest moments of the races, he's been the same guy that's texted me or saw me at the racetrack and put his arm around me. Or listen, we're not like we didn't grow up as friends. We battle each other on the racetrack week in and week out. And for a guy to be that guy, you can't ask for better people than that. And he's truly somebody that I'm really proud of, a good friend, somebody that I'm proud to call a friend, and I hope, for his sake, I hope he gets the opportunity someday to really show how good of a race car driver he is too, because I know he's truly an incredible race car driver as well, and doesn't always necessarily, I mean, not that he's in bad equipment, but just doesn't necessarily always have the opportunity to show it like we all know him as, and I hope someday he gets that really good opportunity.
And obviously, this was your 23rd win in the Xfinity Series. If you obviously win the championship by winning the race next week, you would tie Dale Jr. for career wins in the Xfinity Series. So if you get both those done next week, what would that mean for you, and then like the relationship you have with him?
Listen, Dale Jr. is Dale Jr. I mean, the guy is truly incredible. He's an icon of our sport, and to even be in the same conversation is wild to me. I mean, I remember growing up racing and watching, back then Busch races on TV and seeing Dale Jr. win races, right? The Ace Delco car, and being successful. And I remember watching, him win cup races, and I was a Dale Sr. fan, so obviously I became a Dale Jr. fan. To see the success that Dale's had is actually pales in comparison to just the person that he is. And the reason why people love Dale is not because of his success on the racetrack. It's because of who Dale is as a person, and down to earth, and just being a great guy. And I think for me, that's where I'm blown away that I'm even close. Even if I were to win and to win the championship and be tied with him, it still pales in comparison. But man, it would be cool. And just seeing him in victory lane tonight, he's genuinely happy that this company is succeeding. And he listen, I'm not gonna lie to you, I loved winning Bristol, but I would have equally have been as happy to run second to Dale Jr. And I thought I was going to for a while. But I think when you're around Dale and you see his invigoration or his passion for the sport, it invigorates you to be better. And to even be in that category is pretty wild and pretty special.
All right, we'll take our final question up front here with Lee.
To kind of follow up on that, Lee Spencer from Catch Fence. He came in here and he knows that your opportunities are limited to win a championship. And he's been down that path, right? I mean, he had some pretty sporty teammates back in his day too. And, the Cup title eluded him, but he gets it. He knows that, this might be one of those chances, and he talked about taking off work next week just so he can, be there to support his drivers. And I mean, does it get any better than that to know that your owner is like all in and wants this probably as bad for you as you want it yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just shows why he is Dale Jr. and the icon of the sport. I mean, when it's all said and done, if the race team were to close tomorrow, he's still going to be Dale Jr. He's still going to be successful. He's still going to be that guy. What is wild to me is that he wants it as bad as we do. He wants it as bad for us as we do. Last year, like I said, that picture still haunts me, to be honest with you, because I equally as much wanted it for him and for every man and woman that works at Junior Motorsports. I watched guys from other teams in our shop this week that have races to win, that have all the things going for them. They were down working on the 7 car to try to help make sure that we got our car together to make sure that we had the best shot that we could at coming to Martinsville and win. This race team embodies Dale's spirit, and he feeds off of that as much as we feed off of him. And listen, there would be nothing better that I can imagine is to bring a championship home for him and Kelly, right? And LW. I mean, Joe Mattis. I mean, Joe's final year at Junior Motorsports. I mean, there's so many things that would make this year great. I got to beat my teammate, and Sam is gonna be fantastic next week at Phoenix, no question. I got to beat 2 other drivers that are gonna be fantastic next week at Phoenix. All that being said, there's a good reason why we all want it that bad, and it starts from the top and it works its way all the way to the bottom. And really, again, I don't know how many opportunities I'm going to have, 37 years old. I don't know who the next one youngest is close to me, but it's probably got to be early 30s. Josh might even be the oldest next one. I think he's like 32, right? So it's pretty wild. So, I don't know how many more I'll have. I've had great partners. Hellman's here, Brandt. Rick Brandt climbed the fence with me at Bristol, and to see that emotion out of somebody that's a partner on a race car, there's no words for it. And you never know when it's the last race. I can walk out of here tonight and never race again. I cherish every one of them. Plain and simple.
All right, Justin, congratulations again. Enjoy this week. We look forward to seeing you on Thursday in Phoenix, speaking of that busier week that you have. And best of luck next week in Phoenix as well. Thank you. Here.